A dumpster fire, that's how they're describing the testimony from former adult film star Stormy Daniels. And now her former lawyer, Michael Avenatti, just issued a scathing response that could very well land her in jail, maybe even DA ALVIN Bragg. Alright, so according to her former lawyer, Daniels should be charged for the same crimes that Manhattan District Attorney ALVIN Bragg charged ex-President Donald Trump with, including the alleged falsification of business records. And yeah, if you thought that the Manhattan criminal trial of former President Donald Trump couldn't devolve into more ridiculousness, well, it just did. As pointed out by the legal experts, Daniels has multiple motives to lie. Beyond wanting to advance her career, cashing in and trying to justify the payola that she just pocketed in apparently blackmail scheme, she lost her long-shot defamation lawsuit against Donald Trump and was ordered by the courts to pay him more than $500,000 in legal fees, an amount that she says she will go to jail for before she pays a penny. Well, no objection here from the Trump team, huh? If you look at it closely, it's pretty clear why DA ALVIN Bragg's team called this what some are calling untrustworthy witness for only one purpose: to slime Trump. Now, if you guys were watching the trial, you would probably agree none of what she said on the stand has anything to do with the charges against Donald Trump. Charges that don't even constitute crimes under the law. Even the legal experts from the left said that Stormy Daniels' disastrous responses will backfire, not just on her, but on the whole Trump hush money trial, including Manhattan DA ALVIN Bragg. MSNBC legal analyst Danny Savalos said that Daniels' testimony turned the trial of former President Donald Trump into a quasi-sex assault case, giving his legal team an opening for appeal. Even left-leaning Judge Juan Merchan at one point told prosecutors their witness was going into unnecessary detail. CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams said that Daniels could have damaged the prosecution's case by revealing that she hated Trump. In fact, he's already predicting her testimony would be used against them in the Trump's team's closing arguments. Well, sure looks like we're dumpster diving today, guys. So in today's video, we're going to be exposing all of the issues with Stormy Daniels' testimony and how this could actually lead to Donald Trump winning in the end. You guys ready for this? Okay, so George Washington University Law School professor Jonathan Turley, he had something to say about Stormy Daniels' testimony. So let's hear from Jonathan Turley right now.
The judge said, "I agree that it would have been better if some of these things had been left unsaid." Now, to you, sir, is that common for a judge to say? And if he or she does say that, what follows? Does a mistrial follow, or not necessarily?
No, he's suggesting now he's going to ask the jury to pretend that they didn't hear it, so they could just unhear it rather than hoping that it was unsaid. Of course, that's not going to work. But what was baffling is that the judge created this dumpster fire that went off in his courtroom. It was the defense that said there's no reason for this witness. She's not material to the case. The details of their alleged tryst doesn't have any bearing on the crime. The NDA is not being contested. The question is how it was denoted as a legal expense. So the testimony was entirely irrelevant, and the judge refused to narrow this testimony the way that the defense suggested, if not disallowing it. And then he expressed surprise when this porn star went into lurid detail. And keep in mind that she said that she was coached by the prosecutors.
Now, at this point, people are starting to sense a pattern that all of DA ALVIN Bragg's witnesses have been good for Trump. In fact, you could even downright say that they benefited Trump more than the prosecution. Take Stormy Daniels for one. Right after she testified in the criminal hush money case against Donald Trump, her former lawyer, Michael Avenatti, came forward with a scathing response that exposed all sorts of issues in the former porn star. His question: will DA ALVIN Bragg pursue charges against her for falsification of business records, fraud, etc.? Avenatti then recounted an alleged phone call that she shared with producer Sarah Gibson in June 2023 regarding a documentary about Daniels. So, according to Avenatti, he declined to participate in the documentary after Gibson admitted that Daniels engaged in multiple overt criminal acts, including the alleged falsification of business records, wire fraud, and fraudulent transfers. And as you can read from the text, Avenatti alleged that Daniels and Gibson created a plan to ensure that Daniels would be paid for the documentary without immediately being forced to put the money toward the money she owes Trump. Yeah. Now, to quote from the source, apparently they had fictionally optioned the rights to Daniels' book and then routed the money Daniels demanded through a fabricated trust that had been set up in the name of Daniels' daughter, all to hide the money from Trump and avoid paying the judgment. Wow, that sure does smell like money laundering. And he asked a very good question. How can DA Bragg possibly rely on the testimony of Stormy Daniels, who is herself guilty of fraud and recently falsifying business records to cover up a crime, i.e. fraudulent transfer and wire fraud? And take note, guys, this isn't the first time Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Avenatti, involved himself in the criminal hush money case currently against former President Donald Trump. He previously targeted another key witness in the case, Keith Davidson. He said that Keith Davidson is lying, and that after Avenatti confronted her with her own text messages, Daniels admitted in early 2019 that she and Davidson had extorted Trump in October 2016. It was a shakedown. Now, at this point, Trump supporters are like, who's looking forward to these tyrants being held accountable for their crimes against America when Trump takes office? A lot of people certainly are. But hey, hope you guys are finding the discussion enlightening, and if you are, please take a moment, hit the like button. It really does help out the channel. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on all notifications so that way you don't miss out on any updates or new insights on matters like this one that affect you and our good old US of A. Guys, your support means a lot to me. All right, so let's get back to it. District Attorney Alvin Bragg's case against Donald Trump seems even more misguided when you consider who exactly took the witness stand. The infamous former porn star Stormy Daniels. As expected, she ended up giving a lesson in her well-known trade rather than providing relevant testimony. And y'all already know what her well-known trade is. So what was the point of all of that? Well, as it turns out, not much. Daniels has been claiming that she had an encounter with Trump 18 years ago, which he has always denied. Now, very interestingly, she also denied it in writing initially. That was, of course, after she secured a pretty sizable $130,000 from Donald Trump during his presidential campaign by threatening to go public. Her demands grew as the election approached. Sounds a bit like extortion, doesn't it? But surprisingly, it's Donald Trump who's on trial, not Stormy Daniels. I mean, like, you gotta wonder about that one. So Daniels definitely didn't miss a chance to cash in on her brief connection with Trump either. She made appearances at strip clubs under the banner Make America Horny Again, and even wrote a sensational book titled Full Disclosure, filled with racy descriptions of men's body parts. She also shared how disappointed she was when Donald Trump didn't cast her in his hit show called The Apprentice. On the stand, Daniels spun a racy story about a private dinner and a one-time sexual encounter with Donald Trump, and then oddly claimed to have blacked out. Whether any of her story is true really doesn't seem to matter. It's all besides the point for the case at hand. Plus, if you've been following the story like we have, you would have noticed that Stormy Daniels has been known to flip-flop on her story, even admitting to faking her own signature after previously retracting her statement about the affair. Go figure. Daniels definitely tried to look innocent when she told the jury that she wasn't after the money, but just wanted to get her story about Trump out to the public. But then again, it's hard to square that with her decision to sell her silence to Trump's lawyer for that big wad of cash, you know what I mean? Thought it wasn't about the money. Apparently it may have been. That statement alone really took away any kind of sense of credibility for the former porn star. And she didn't stop there. She even had her manager get the story out and make some money. It's pretty clear that Daniels had plenty of reasons to stretch the truth, from boosting her career to justifying the hush money that she received, which looks a lot like blackmail. She had her motives. After losing a defamation suit against Donald Trump, she was hit with a court order to pay $500,000 in his legal fees, a cost that she's refusing to cover. Some say she's just mad that she has $600,000 that she owes Trump. I mean, she even tweeted that she would go to jail before she pays a penny. What does that tell you, right? MSNBC legal analyst Danny Cavallo described Stormy Daniels as one of those witnesses that tends to not just answer the question asked, but add her own editorial. And that's a really dangerous thing. So Cavallo said that the prosecution is sitting at their desk saying, just answer the question, please. Just answer the question. CNN analyst Elliot Williams pointed out that she may have done damage to the prosecution's case by virtue of the fact that she just couldn't stop saying stuff. And so that's going to end up backfiring on them. CNN's Ellie Honig even called it disastrous. She makes a good point. When the witness hates the person whose liberty is at stake, that's a big damn deal. And she's putting out tweets fantasizing about him being in jail. That really undermines the credibility there. Now, it's pretty clear the prosecutors brought Daniels to the stand with one goal: to slime Trump. That seems pretty clear since her testimony really didn't touch on the actual charges against him. The charges were for falsifying business records. Nothing to do with the whole thing with Stormy Daniels. Forget Forget that there was nothing false about them. There were legal payments in exchange for a legal document that was negotiated by 2 lawyers and booked as legal expenses because that's what they were. The Trump Organization accountant who handled it corroborated when he testified himself. So why bring Daniels into this mess? She wasn't involved in the internal financial dealings or the non-disclosure agreement specifics. It seems she was just there to sully Trump's name with humiliating stories about her supposed transient encounter. On the stand, Daniels tried to stand her ground but crumbled under pressure, even resorting to name-calling Trump an orange turd. In a tense exchange, defense attorney Susan Nichols confronted Daniels with her ever-changing accounts of what really happened with Trump. She pointed out how Daniels has been making money for more than a decade on the story that she had sex with Donald Trump. When pressed, Daniels admitted that it seems profitable to focus on the scandalous aspects of her story with Trump. It's pretty clear it was completely unnecessary to call Daniels to the stand. Everything about her financial dealings and the payments had already been covered by previous witnesses. Yet, and this was under ALVIN Bragg's guidance, mind you, Daniels ended up sharing explicit details that were just really over the top. At one point, even Judge Juan Merchan had to tell the jury to disregard some of the more explicit parts of her testimony. But let's be honest, guys. Once something like this is said, it's impossible to forget. Like if a jury heard that Donald Trump was wearing a strap-on, how do you really tell them to forget what you just heard? Or delete that mental image from your mind? You know what I mean? Anyway, Judge Juan Merchan's decision to allow such controversial testimony has been so controversial that it led to Donald Trump's legal team to call for a mistrial. Now, of course, since the judge was a key player in this oversight, he dismissed this request, which is sure to be a major point of contention for the defense if there is an appeal, and I'm willing to bet money that there probably will be. The rule is clear. Relevant evidence should be left out if it risks being more prejudicial than useful. In this case, the damage to Trump is clear and it's significant, with the testimony offering little in terms of relevance. Legal experts say the case put forward by Bragg lacks solid ground, both factually and legally. So now it kind of seems like he's resorting to tarnishing Trump in the eyes of the jury with a sensational story that lacks any legal wrongdoing. We're 3 weeks into this trial and there's still no concrete evidence that Trump was involved in any criminal activity. No one has even claimed that he was directly involved in categorizing the Daniels payments as legal expenses. Prosecution is hinting at electoral crimes that haven't been charged, which they aren't even authorized to pursue in the first place. That's usually a job for the federal authorities, who have already decided not to take action because they don't see a crime. From this angle, Bragg seems to have crafted a baseless case against a political opponent filled with irrelevant and prejudicial distractions. Period and point blank. A lot of people are saying that the district attorney has turned this into a farce, abandoning fairness and due process. Judge Merchan, he should have put a stop to it long ago, but instead, he's just continuing on with a flawed prosecution. For Trump supporters everywhere, they say anyone who values our justice system should really be concerned about this blatant disregard for the rule of law. What do you guys think though? Should they have already trashed this case a long time ago? Drop a quick yes or no in the comments down below. I'll make sure to read the comments before our next video. Speaking of, you can be sure that I'm already working on the next one. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for liking the video, and I'll see you on the next one.